U.S. international and longtime player in the MLS and abroad, Tony Sanneh. Thanks for coming on the show, Tony.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, hopefully, that intro didn't make you sound really old. I mean, you have been around a while, but I just want to let you know I am almost the exact same age that you are. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you're old too then. Huh?
Yeah, the difference is, Tony, you were playing right up through 2009, and I haven't kicked a ball since probably 2000. So you've kept yourself in shape. By the way, how is the weather up there in Minnesota?
It's nice inside. It actually warmed up. I was around 0 for the last week and a half, and snow started melting today.
Thank goodness. Actually, Brett and I are here near the Indianapolis area, and we've had our fair share of the shake, if you will, the
ice.
The ice and snow. But let's start by finding out a little bit more. I mean, a lot of people are interested. They want to know what you've been up to, and I know you've had your own project there called Soccer Sanneh and the Sanneh Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about these organizations and what their goals are?
Well, our mission is, to unite diverse communities and, help kids find success on and off the field. So we do a bunch of things. We have an exchange program with the kids in Haiti. We do equipment drives and redistribution. I do after-school programs, soccer and leadership in the community. We do anti-racism training. We do college readiness. So we're kind of like a boys and girls club of soccer.
Wow. Go ahead, Brad. I heard you.
No, I was just going to say that sounds like a really great program.
Yeah, I mean,
needs to be more of them.
Yeah, certainly we would like it, but to see more of them. Brett and I have had a great discussion actually not long ago with Lisa Eiseminger. She writes in Boston, but the important thing about that conversation was that a lot of the kids in the lower socioeconomic brackets are having a hard time, of course, trying to find a chance to play the game. And then, of course, a lot of people, as you know, Tony, have been talking about how can we tap in to helping these kids become, in these troubled communities, become more excited about the game of soccer and its benefits. Have you guys been able to tap into that? Are you getting a lot more kids and young people from those areas involved in what you're doing there at Soccer Sanneh and the Sanneh Foundation?
Right. In Minnesota, we have huge immigrant groups. We have one of the biggest Hmong populations in the country, a huge Somalian, Liberian, and other West African countries. So we are actually finding that, our top-level players here are becoming, more of a mixture coming from low income and, in many cases, refugee kids. Our program is, one, to help identify these kids, two, to give them a chance. And our community has done a pretty good job of seeking them out. And, youth soccer has gotten so competitive now that, even the major clubs are going in and searching out and trying to find the kids, the special ones. But it's the mid-level ones that just want to play for fun that end up suffering because they're not good enough for someone to basically pay for them, and they get left out. And that's the ones that we try to help.
Yeah. And you are right. It is getting so competitive. Do you feel like the USSF and all the different youth programs are getting it better at identifying strong or talented youth players at an early age? Is this something we've evolved to? I mean, are we really getting to the point where we're good at that?
Well, I was with, I'm kind of acting as a scout now locally with the youth national team, and it came up at a question, about a month ago, and my question was, how many kids from the under 14 national team end up playing on the full one? And it's probably not that high a number. So is it really a blessing to be noticed at that young age because you got years to fall off the map? But I do think we have a lot more professional coaches, which overall makes for better coaching, more people vested in the game. The only problem is that you need to fund those coaches, and sometimes they make decisions based on their livelihood and not what's in the best interest of the kids.
Yeah. I mean, there are still a lot of critics, of course, that think that, let's talk about IMG as an example. They're still saying the best players are not ending up in the IMG Academy at Bradenton. It is a pay-to-play, at least a portion of it is pay-to-play. And the critics say that, maybe we're still not yet tapping into the best players that we have out there because they're hidden. They're kind of like Clint Dempsey in a way. They're playing in kind of smaller, poorer communities, and we're not quite finding them all yet.
Well, it's like Brazil. Where do you find the best kids in Brazil? And you're not going to get all of them. And I don't know the statistics on IMG. I know that the school there and the academy that the U.S. national team are two different things. And I don't believe that the kids pay to be on the national team down there.
They don't, right?
Okay, so that's not a pay-to-play system there. The other academy is. And, in Minnesota we have Shattuck, and they finished runner-up, I think, in the national championship. And it's a boarding school and costs about $30,000 a year to go there. They do scholarships some kids, but they're trying to replicate what's down there up north. But we are trying. I know Claudio's doing a good job of trying to identify more kids, but it's a big country, and the fact is that if you have Latino coaches and they find a under 15 English national caliber defender that lumps the ball up the field, he might not be good for his team. And, just a little difference in nuances and styles is going to alienate different kids. And, in this country, one of the things that's good and bad is that we have a lot of styles, but I think we're still searching for our identity. And I think that's one of the things that Claudio is trying to set forth is this is the way we want to play as a country. And let's everyone get on the same page. So then we know if we're all playing the same system, we know what, a good 14-year-old should look like at a right back. He should be able to keep the ball. He shouldn't be just dumping it every time.
Right.
And it's funny, you brought up a lot of points that I was going to bring up as well on this subject. The size of our country, we're not like in England. We have so vast. We are much more like a Brazil where we have a wide population and it's hard to scout everywhere and anywhere. It's easier to scout, say, like a city of like Los Angeles or Chicago. But when you look at, like, say, a city like Indianapolis, it's not as it's easy to scout, but it's just such a wide variety of different locations to scout that players are always going to slip through the crack, and that's the big problem here.
Right, and then you go into communities like Indianapolis and Minnesota. We're actually doing pretty well here, but it's not as dense as L.A., New York, or Chicago. So the overall competition on a day-to-day basis isn't there. So you do have to hold everything with a grain of salt when a kid could be scoring goals every day, but you're the first thing you say is, well, who's he playing against? And until you see him play against quality is when you can be sure in your identification process.
Right. And then I'm not trying to add fuel to fire in this discussion, but Bruce Arena said recently, and I'm just going to quote him so I don't misquote him, but he said about Reyna's whole curriculum-based approach, he said a curriculum is not going to make us better. He said if that was the case, we'd all publish curriculums. This country, I've always said, is too large, too different to have one style of play. If Reyna can get that accomplished, more credit to him. Were you able to read those comments by Bruce, and what are your thoughts about Bruce's thoughts?
Well, that's his opinion, and I think he is right in some sense, and he's just saying that Claudio has a difficult job.
Yeah.
And being such a big country, that's one of our biggest strengths and one of our biggest weaknesses. But at the same time, if we can break it down regionally, and it also helps. But I think it would be silly not to try to get on the same page, because then even at the regional level, you have 8 different styles, and then good kids are getting left out instead of trying to adapt early.
Right. And it's a monster. There's no doubt about it. But everyone keeps saying that in order for us to be successful, We need to be better technically. I agree. Yes, we do. But does that mean that in some way we'll be giving up something that has been, pretty much the strength of our team historically, which is our speed and our athleticism? And is our challenge really tactical, or is it technical? And are we risking giving up our strengths if we say focused on the tactical and the technical?
Well, I think if we get youth parents out of soccer, we'll make a big step forward to begin with. And I think, tactically, I think the game just needs to be more popular. Kids will watch it on TV. Kids will, grow up around it. Kids need to be in a soccer environment. And then they learn tactically because they'll live it. And I think, as soccer grows, the coaches don't necessarily have to teach it. I think it can just be a mentality that's learned through lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So the more popular it becomes, tactically, the better we'll get as a country. And then the other thing is technically, and somewhat tactically, is, we have to decide if we're going to develop players or if we're worried about winning. Now, typically, you have an under-12 coach that won 14 state championships, and he's the highest paid guy in his club, and he's great, and all the parents want to send their kids there. Yeah. And he just takes the tallest ones, and the other ones go, and by 14, none of those kids play, but they're not being developed. Yeah. And so we have to decide that we are at younger ages are going to look at kids where they are in their growth plate. If he's 65% away from his peak, don't kick him off the top team, because without that competition, he's not going to continue to advance. Yet he's not, physically he's behind everybody. So are we going to risk losing today, knowing that in 3 years from now, this kid is going to be just as big as everybody else, mm-hmm. and technically he's better today, so in 3 years from now he should be way better, or are we going to say, we're going to take another kid that's already grown up at 16, and then this kid that's technically better goes on the second team, doesn't have as good training, doesn't have as good competition, mm-hmm. and loses interest in the game. So in my mind, we have to develop players and worry less about winning, and reward coaches less at a younger, in younger age groups, and look to, how many players really advance out of their systems, mm-hmm.